Forward to that and our next interview. This is something I think we all need to do. Staying hydrated. I don't think it, I know it. It can feel like a never-ending battle sometimes, and nowadays there are all kinds of different electrolyte powders. Well, Dr. Jay Bloomer, the College of Health Sciences Dean at the University of Memphis, is joining us now to help us sort through all of this. Oh my goodness. It is a race, right? I've actually started to put water in a red Solo cup to trick me into thinking it's a party, right? Yeah. So talk to me about just the need for water in our bodies.
Sure, so it doesn't have to be complicated, first of all. I think what people really want to focus on is just regularly and liberally consuming water throughout the day and having something within arm's reach all throughout the day. That's crucially important. Men, we're looking at about 3 liters or more per day. Women, about 2 liters or more per day, depending on the size of the person, the activity profile of the person, how much they're losing in sweat. But it's really as simple as that. It does not have to be that complicated.
You kind of have to make yourself, I mean, not everybody has to make themselves do it. I do. So talk to me about, because like I started when I got older getting like a Charlie horse if I didn't have it, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, it can really hurt your kidneys, right?
Well, what's important is that when we talk about hydration, we're simply saying we want people to put fluid back into their body. Right. Because if we're dehydrated, what happens is we have issues with blood pressure regulation, with thermal regulation or temperature regulation, with blood flow and transport of nutrients to tissues. And also, we see an imbalance sometimes in the electrolytes, the sodium, the potassium, the chloride, things of that sort. So that's important because if electrolytes are out of balance, we may have problems with nerve conductivity, may have problems with fluid balance, may have problems with muscle contraction and cardiac muscle contraction or heart muscle contraction when it's really significant or severe. So it's really important that people will hydrate themselves regularly throughout the day.
Okay, so if you don't want to do a red Solo cup to feel like it's a party, what are some of the other things that people are doing?
Well, what's popular nowadays, as we've talked about previously, is the fact that many people are using electrolyte replacement beverages. So those can even come in what we would typically call an oral rehydration solution, like a Pedialyte, or a sports drink like a Gatorade, a Powerade, a Body Armor, something along those lines that usually have electrolytes plus some carbohydrate plus some amino acids. Or sometimes they're devoid of calories, it's just the electrolyte. Or we see some of those stick pack powders like the Liquid I.V, like the Element, like the Noon tablets, things of that sort, which can help certain people, but most people, frankly, do not need those things. They simply need water.
Do they help?
They help individuals who actually need that help. So the individual who, for example, they're dressed like us, they're working in an office, they're working in a studio, they do not need electrolyte replacement supplements. Okay. They're perfectly fine drinking water alone. And it could not just be water, perhaps it's some tea, it's some coffee, it's some meal replacement drinks. Actually, milk. Whole and skim milk has been shown to be the best rehydrating beverage compared to any of the other products.
I've never even heard of this.
Likely because it has carbohydrate naturally, and it has protein or amino acids naturally, but milk is actually a very good rehydrating beverage if people opted to use that.
Okay, and so basically the people who might be working physically, like if you're doing manual labor, is that who might need electrolytes?
Sure. So we, of course, look to athletes, and that's important for certain athletes, not the person that's reading the newspaper as they're riding the bicycle at the gym, but people that are really pushing themselves in the gym for extended periods of time. They may benefit from some of these electrolyte replacement supplements, but also construction workers, roofers, day laborers, individuals that are really spending a lot of time in the heat, 10, 12-hour-a-day shifts, and they're really wasting a lot of fluid through sweat, and they're losing electrolytes as well. Those people likely can benefit from some of these products.
I know you told us how much to drink, but if you could just give us the symptoms that, well, first of all, thirst. If you feel thirsty, that's the first symptom. But what are symptoms that you need to get that water in your body now?
Yeah, so thirst, obviously, dry mouth, sometimes headache, sometimes fatigue, sometimes dizziness if it's severe. And then also a very dark urine. A urine that's very dark, that has a lot of odor to it, that would be a sure sign that someone likely is dehydrated. We're looking for a very pale yellow urine and individuals to be drinking fluid throughout the day to achieve that.
This is such an important discussion. Our body is made up mostly of
About
water.
60%.
Okay, thank you so much for telling us something I had no idea about, and you always cut through all the white noise out there because everybody's trying to sell something. So Dr. Richard Bloomer of the University of Memphis, thank you for helping us drink our water.
You're welcome.
All right, weather expert Todd Norris has your full forecast coming up after this short break. And coming up later in the show, we are sitting down with a filmmaker to talk about her upcoming film festival, AIM, here in Memphis.